We're going to jump right in. My name is Kirsten Parsons. Thank you so much for joining us today. I appreciate you accepting this invitation from Ingleside to participate in this session of our series on navigating dementia. If this is your first session, this is actually the sixth that we have done this year. And we do have those prior sessions recorded, so we can share a link with you in the chat so that if you missed any of those first sessions, you can watch the recordings of those. So thank you for joining us today. We are going to be talking about transitioning to a residential memory program and looking at multiple aspects of what makes an effective program, looking at the therapeutic aspect, the orientation for family and for the resident, and then what consistent staff training looks like. So quite a first, before we jump in, I do want to introduce the Ingleside communities. It's quite possible that many of you are familiar with who we are and what we are doing, but for those of you who may have just received this link from a friend or a neighbor and they said, yeah, jump on today, let me introduce you to Ingleside and what we're doing. We're going to also introduce our panelists today, and then we'll jump into it. We'll have time at the end for questions. So there's a few ways to do that. One of the easiest is to just drop it in the chat, and we can read that question and discuss it. You can also do it anonymously by putting it in the Q&A feature. And then you can actually raise your hand and speak your question if you'd like. That's certainly the least anonymous, so it's up to you, but a couple different ways of how to do that. So the Ingleside communities, there are three of us. Ingleside at Rock Creek in Northwest DC is our flagship community. So we've been on that property for 60 years, but our heritage actually dates back more than 100 years as the Presbyterian Home for Widows. We are so grateful to be in that location, to be on 14 acres in Northwest DC. We love it. It is a life plan community. All three of our properties are. That simply means we have independent, assisted, and skilled services all on one campus. We're also doing quite a bit in the dementia-specific circles, and so I'll share a little bit more about that and what that looks like at each level of care. But I will share with you that on all three properties, we do have a social day program. We are providing memory support assisted living services, and then also do have that skilled nursing facility license where we are able to provide care for someone who's in the most advanced stages of cognitive change. Westminster at Lake Ridge is our property in Prince William County, Virginia, located on 62 acres. It is our only property that has cottages, which you see there in the picture. And then Ingleside at King Farm is our baby sister community, the youngest of the three, located in Rockville, Maryland, what used to be a farm of maybe 2,000 acres, and we are just so grateful to be right in the middle. And our footprint has, again, independent, assisted, and skilled nursing all on one campus right there in the heart of the King Farm neighborhood. So if you are completely unfamiliar with levels of care and you heard me say we're a life plan community and you're thinking, I don't know what that term is. It used to be called Continuing Care Retirement Community, or a CCRC, so maybe you're familiar with that term. But both mean that we've got these multiple levels of care, including that nursing home level of care. And that's the key part. Many communities are able to offer independent and assisted or independent assisted and memory care, but having that skilled nursing facility license and being able to offer that nursing home care and that short-term rehab would be what makes us a full life plan community. Independent living, as it sounds, is a setting where we're talking about a lifestyle, concierge services, things like housekeeping and a meal plan, but it is not a medical level of care. Certainly, there are individuals who would pursue living in independent living who might bring in supportive companion care, but independent living as a model is not a medical model. When we talk about assisted living, we are now talking about a regulated level of care where 24/7 nursing staff are present and things like support with medication management and support with incontinence or bathing and dressing is provided. In our communities, we use the term memory support assisted living. In other communities, that may just be known as memory care. For us, we do make that distinction because in the assisted living environment where our memory support neighborhoods are, individuals are doing quite a bit for themselves. And so there is still that sense of autonomy and pursuit of things that is important to them. And we see things like ambulation and conversations at meals and things that may not be happening in a more memory care setting where someone might have advanced cognitive change. And so when we're talking about our community's memory support assisted living, we are really geared towards supporting an individual in the moderate stages of cognitive change. And then when we look at that nursing home level of care, either long-term or short-term rehabilitation, we're licensed to do both. When we're thinking about long-term care, that might be that stage where someone needs complete care, or you might say that they are totally dependent on the 24-hour nursing staff. And that might look like something like using a Hoyer lift or having significant clinical care needs. And that is something that we might see in conjunction with a more stage of dementia. Ingleside Engaged, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, is our social day program. It is available on all three of our campuses. And so we are so grateful and proud to have this program. Our memory directors who are joining us on today's call are each running these programs at their communities. So this is something that is open to the public. You do not have to be a resident of an Ingleside campus or community to participate in this. And so we have individuals who are committed to aging in place at home, but they are pursuing this program because their partner needs support. And so they are better able to stay at home longer together by bringing their partner into our communities to participate for 5 or 6 hours a day, depending on the program, in a meal and exercise and discussion groups and poetry readings. And it is just a really engaging event for them. So whether it's one day a week or up to 5 days a week, that physical, cognitive, social stimulation is hugely important. And again, that's something that is open both to our residents of independent and assisted living, but also to the greater community. Ingleside at Home by Interim is our home care program. So we are able to actually support individuals in their aging in place goals, whether that's in the greater community or in our own independent living or assisted living, to age in place, meaning that if they just need some support with their activities of daily living for a set amount of time, maybe 2 or 4 hours in the morning or in the evening, we're able to provide this supportive care setting. Again, this is nursing, but companionship and personal care. And then lastly, I'll share with you about Experience by Ingleside, which is kind of our non-medical arm of services and concierge support. This is a way for our community to really care for what was intentionally our waitlist members. It's now expanded to include individuals who aren't on our waitlist. We have people who are looking for supportive services in their home setting, meal delivery, housekeeping, pet care, and they just want to have a vendor be referred to them that is a licensed individual, insured, has had a criminal background check. So these are our vendors and partners who we've in some cases worked with for 25, 30 years at some of the campuses. And so to have these vendors now working under the Ingleside name to provide services in your home as part of this tailored concierge program has been a really wonderful thing in the last about 2 years. All right, so I want to introduce now our three memory program directors, and we'll jump into today's program. First, I just want to introduce Amy. She is our memory program director at Westminster at Lake Ridge, our Virginia property. Her experience is actually working as a therapist, and so how lucky we are today to hear from her regarding robust therapeutic programs and what that looks like in our communities. We are also joined by Maureen Charlton. She's at our Rockville property, Ingleside at King Farm. Maureen has significant experience, including with the Alzheimer's Association, educating and working with both care partners and professionals to better support them in their journey of walking alongside someone who has cognitive change. So she will be sharing with us today about that staff training component, and she has opened multiple residential memory programs. And we are joined by Mariana Blackburn at our Northwest DC property, Ingleside at Rock Creek. And so we are just so grateful to have her speaking to the orientation and integration of a family or care partner into our neighborhoods and what that can look like, because that is a very specific part of this process. And I'll say that transition conversations about. So we're just so grateful to have her expertise in this area. So without further delay, I'm going to let Amy share about therapeutic programs as kind of that first leg of the.
Thanks so much, Kirsten. I'm excited to share a little bit about what I'm passionate about, really, which is giving people meaning and purpose in their day. And that is the essence of therapeutic programming. We're talking about it today through the context of transitions and how what we call here at Ingleside life enrichment supports transitions to a residential memory program. So if you want to go to the next slide, why do we want to use diverse, engaging, evidence-based therapeutic programs? First of all, it's tied to our identity. So when we're welcoming somebody to memory support, we want to get to know them and we want them to feel welcome and that they belong. Who they are belongs in our community. And a big part of our community is what we do. So if you've ever noticed when you introduce yourself that you list off all these things that you do, I work here, I play this instrument, I love to walk dogs, whatever it is, that's so much a part of our identity. In addition, what we do, activities, it brings us enjoyment. It's what can connect us with other people, and gives our lives meaning. When an individual has cognitive change, though, participating in those activities that they've historically enjoyed can be a little bit more challenging to do independently. So maybe somebody sang in a community choir, but they've lost the ability to drive a car. So that's become more challenging. They need to find a ride or an alternate activity. So that is why we have life enrichment. They get to know the folks who are moving into memory support assisted living, and they can either bring in programming that helps them to feel supported and purposeful in each day, or find a way for them to engage in those previously enjoyed activities. And in a life plan community like we have here at Westminster at Lake Ridge, our life enrichment team helps our assisted living residents come out and go to the choir that they've participated in for years with the rest of the residents here. So, it's a mix of bringing in new things and supporting people to do the same programs that they've been doing previously. So for those of us who don't work in senior living or who aren't living in senior living, activities might not be something we've thought too much about. So I just wanted to share a framework for thinking about activities, and that all of these things are really vital in each and every day for each and every person. So we have productive activities, leisure activities, self-care activities, and rest and restoration. So productive activities, that's like your job. Maybe you volunteered somewhere. Maybe you were a homemaker. All of these things that you either make money from or the work that you do helps somebody or brings you purpose in that way. Then we have leisure activities. So those are things we do just because they're fun. And that can be either active or passive. So an example of an active leisure activity would be playing a sport, and a passive example would be watching a sport. They're both great. Then we have self-care activities. So a lot of the time during our day is spent caring for ourselves, or maybe our personal space. So our activities of daily living, showering, brushing our teeth, all of those things are self-care, as well as um, cleaning up after dinner. Um, these things are meaningful, and in the context of a residential memory program, we don't want to take those away from people because they do have meaning. What we want to do is support people to be able to do these things, whether they need some cueing or maybe they just need help with one small piece of the self-care activity. What we want to be doing is just assisting at the lowest level that is needed. The final category is rest and restoration. So that's after a long day of work, how do we recharge our batteries? So that really depends on your personality, if you're an introvert or an extrovert. Somebody might feel recharged by curling up on the couch and reading a book, and somebody else might feel recharged by meeting up with some friends and going on a walk. But in either case, it's important to have some time during the day where people can rest and restore themselves. So in a senior living residential memory program, we want to make sure that we're not packing the day with high energy things, that we're also making sure people have quiet spaces and more relaxing programs to engage with as well. And I also wanted to touch on the term therapeutic activities and creative arts therapies. Um, so a therapeutic activity is just one that is intentional. It is designed to help somebody improve their physical, mental, or emotional well-being. So if somebody's trying to improve their physical well-being, we think of exercise or yoga, things along those lines. We could also think about mental well-being, and that can include cognitive well-being. So are we playing brain games or doing crafts that engage the brain? So the realm of therapeutic activities is really endless. Really just means that we're picking things intentionally to support someone's well-being. And then we have creative arts therapies. And so as Kirsten mentioned, my background is that I'm a board certified music therapist. So I'm really passionate about creative arts therapies in senior living. Um, they include art therapy, music therapy, dance movement therapy, and drama therapy. And these are delivered by credentialed therapists who have gone to school and done in the field training and had supervision, and often sat for a board exam and applied for a state license. So it's a pretty rigorous preparation for this career. And they either work with folks one-on-one or in a group setting, and they have some sort of goal. So it's more specific goal focused than a therapeutic activity. And I think they're especially valuable for memory support because creative arts therapists are trained to work at goals such as grief in a way that's not as that's a little bit easier to engage with than, say, talk therapy for somebody who has cognitive change. They may still be able to express themselves in a different way than verbally. So this can be through art or music or something like that. Can also support folks who are approaching end of life, people who, for whatever reason, are more isolated or not engaging in the other activities that the other residents are enjoying, or maybe they're experiencing depression. So I know that at Ingleside, we do have creative arts therapists that work in our memory support programs, and I think that's really valuable in any program, something to look for. Focusing again on transitions, life enrichment really is kind of the welcome wagon for people when they transition to memory support. So some of the ways they get to know folks is often through a questionnaire. Ours is called the All About Me questionnaire. And what we're looking for there is the person's story, who they are, and again, what they did, but all aspects of their identity, and what they did for their vocation or for volunteering. Often it gives us good insight into what their values and their strengths are. So we can recommend some programming that they might enjoy, or some people in the community that they might connect with, or it just gives the team kind of a starting point to have these conversations where we're building that initial relationship. Life enrichment also helps people discover their joy. So I have seen so many great examples of this where someone has experienced loss of abilities to some degree, or loss of access to their what they were doing before they moved to residential memory care. And then they find a new purpose, a new identity once they move in. So people might start exploring art. And I've known a few people who have done this. And he said, I was an admiral, but now I'm an artist. And really, and it's adult coloring pages that this gentleman was interested in. And he took it very seriously. It was very important to him. So that's just to say that people can find new interests and hobbies, and this can be an opportunity to explore ourselves in that way. Life enrichment also extends to self-care. As a team, really, we're again trying to support residents to do as much self-care on their own as they can. And this is done through an interdisciplinary team approach, which means that the dietitian and the nursing team and life enrichment and the social worker all sit down at a table together and with the resident and their family, and talk about their individualized service plan, which includes how the person would like to receive care, the schedule, and all of these elements. So collaboratively with all of those people, figuring out just what level of assistance is needed in self-care, transfers, exercise, all of these things. And then life enrichment also are the ones who really advocate for rest and restoration. So that might not be in a group program. That might be a one-on-one room visit, or it could be identifying some things that the family can do on the weekend when they come to visit, or in the evening time, making sure that the materials are available. So again, life enrichment is kind of the welcome wagon for folks when they move to memory support assisted living. But that's only one leg of our stool today. So I'm happy to turn it over to Maureen Charlton, who's going to talk a little bit about staff training.
Thank you, Amy. As funny as I'm sitting, my office is inside our Ingleside Engaged space. And right now we're having a therapeutic program we have our neighbors next door from the Goddard School. There's preschoolers here. And I can't see the joy, but I can hear it. And last time they were here, a participant pulled me aside and she says, it just makes me feel alive, so it really is that joy that Amy was talking about, and that intentionality makes such a difference. We all want that as well. With training, I often say, I learned the hard way when I started a long time ago. Sort of the body of knowledge that we have for dementia care was really sort of non-existent and emerging. And so I really got to learn from some great people that were emerging leaders in the field, and really have learned that it's a skill. It's just not this magic quality that everybody has. There are skills that you need to learn and to build. And I won't say anybody can do it, because it does take some effort and some skill, but it really can be something that folks learn, and it really is important to equipping our teams to be able to communicate well, and it does make a difference. So you can go on to the next slide. Sometimes people will ask me, wow, you work with people with dementia, you must be a special person. And I always joke and say, well, how are you supposed to respond to that? Yes, I'm really special. You should be glad you know me. But like I said earlier, it really is, I have learned special skills. And so one of the reasons that we picked as an Ingleside organization the dementia practitioner, certified dementia practitioner training, because we want to build those skills into our teams. And it really is just, I can't understate the importance of communicating and interacting with somebody with dementia well, because it is a different skill than than interacting with somebody that's completely cognitively intact. Of course, there's crossover and there's things that are similar, but really is about, kind of, as Amy was saying, being intentional and being purposeful in how we communicate and what we communicate and what we don't communicate as well. How we communicate with our physical bodies, how we communicate with our words, are all really important to somebody that is struggling to make sense of their world. So we use, like I said, this dementia practitioner training. It's from the National Council of Certified Dementia Practitioners. It's an international organization, and they actually just totally revamped their curriculum as of 2025. It's a lot more interactive, a lot more videos, and the participants in the training get, it's a thick workbook that's really a reference manual of resources and ideas and tips. It's incredibly detailed and in depth, but our goal really is to help people, again, build those skills, how to communicate, how to build that connection. I'm going to be more successful in getting Mr. Smith to the shower if I take a minute and build a little bit of connection with him, build some rapport, and build that sense that I'm safe, and I'll be more likely to help him with his activities of daily living, more successfully. And again, making it, as opposed to just a task, making it about the relationship. We do a lot of empathy training, of trying to kind of, what would it feel like? What would it be like to be this person that is having these brain changes? How would I see the world? What do you think I would feel? And getting people just, again, kind of come alongside, join that journey. We'll talk a little bit about validation in just a minute, but just, it's really about kind of meeting people where they are. I often say that good dementia communication is really kind of, I think, how we all wanted to be treated, is just, meet me where I'm at. I might be having a rough day, and I just need you to come alongside me and give me a pat on the back. Tomorrow, I might be on top of the world, and you don't need to encourage me, but boy, I want you to, celebrate with me for whatever reason. We really long for that connection and that friendship or camaraderie, and I see it develop amongst our Ingleside Engaged participants, and I certainly see it amongst our memory support assisted living residents, and we all do better in community. So part of the training is really to build those skills, as well as that build that community within our organization. And it's ongoing. We have this full day, 8-hour course. And usually it's the day after they start orientation here at the community. So it's high priority. This is something everybody needs to go to. But then there's ongoing training. Some of it is through our platform is called Relias, which is an online platform that our team members do regular updated trainings. Some of it is just, during our huddle meetings, our weekly or daily kind of check-ins with our team, doing a little role play. Sometimes it's seeing an interaction with somebody, you go, wow, that was perfect. Great job, really kind of coaching and encouraging people. And of course, the flip side is, if something kind of doesn't go as well as we'd hope, pulling that team member aside and saying, thanks for stepping in. I wonder if we could have done anything different that might have made it a little bit easier, for this resident. So it's definitely ongoing. None of us learn one and done. At least I'll speak for myself. If somebody shares us some really great information with me, I'm probably going to glean some of it, but over time, I'm going to glean more and more as those skills and that mindset is supported and facilitated. So you can go to the next slide there. And it goes beyond just our team. Our team, obviously, they're in there all day long, every day. They need really solid skills, but we also want to support our family members as well, because they're still, we might be doing, the heavy lifting, so to speak, and taking care of bathing and dressing and all that, but they're still a caregiver. They're still part of this, this family, if you will. And so we certainly want to support them as well. One way is through, it's a partnership with myself and an independent living resident that we host bi-weekly, is that right? Bi-monthly, maybe that's every first and third Thursday, we'll make it clear. A support group just for folks to just kind of share what are they experiencing, what are they struggling with, because it doesn't again fix the problems, but it's just good to know somebody else is kind of in that same boat and provide some support and some, kind of on the, in the trenches kind of information of what people experienced. We offer quite a bit of education to our families through, we offer independent living, which is open to all of our anybody that is here in the community, families, residents, staff, because what you don't know, you don't know. And so some of that is just kind of reiterating some basic kind of caregiving techniques. Sometimes it's helping people find a resource and connect with the right people or the right organizations to help them get through the situation, and just being, again, kind of being a navigator for them. And I sort of already addressed this, but sort of that on the spot coaching. And again, I think this goes for families as well. And I often say that it's easier for professionals to use some of these techniques because sometimes it's kind of common sense, but sometimes we have to sort of step outside of our normal way of interacting with somebody. So if my father has dementia, I've been used to for, almost 60 years of interacting with him in a certain way, sort of logically, and it's linear. And now if he has dementia, I have to really readjust my skills. And so that's, again, I think often harder for a family member because they're having to make a switch in the relationship, whereas the professional, we can just kind of step in and love and care them for who they are now. We don't have this whole history. So really kind of learning to sort of be in the moment. And again, team needs reminders of this as well. And also kind of learning that skill of redirection rather than trying to logically piece something out and convince somebody of something. You go, I heard what you said, but I really want to show you this beautiful sunset and kind of move somebody into a different direction. So kind of back to what I said at the beginning, really, there's some skills here that that we want our team to be equipped with and ready with, and we also want to support our families in that process because it's a team effort. It's been working. We have a couple of new residents moving into our memory support this week, and several emails that we've kind of gone back and forth with as we're exchanging information. I was like, thank you for your partnership in this. This is a group effort, and it takes all of us. You know, the old phrase, "It takes a village." It takes all of us working together to bring out about the best quality of life that we can for our folks that are living with dementia. So, in that respect, I will move it on to Mariana.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our program this afternoon. We're pleased to support you as you learn more about this transition, and happy to answer any questions, of course, at the end. So I'm going to talk about the role of the therapeutic narrative, um, and the support person's orientation, the orientation for the family in a seamless, successful transition to residential memory support. Or as I like to say, how do we adapt at this time to use the information that we have about our loved one and the information we have about the new community they're moving toward? And how do we adapt as a family? What is the language that we're going to use? In understanding it amongst ourselves, and especially with the person who needs now an elevated level of care. So I like to really, at Ingleside, we really collaborate with our family, starting with the talk and the tour. During the touring time, we begin to know more about what's going on at home with their loved one. What are some of the needs? What has been sort of the trigger time of letting us know that our person needs a level of safety, needs more care and support than we're able to provide at home? And how do we talk to that person about next steps and where we are? Many of us never plan for this too far ahead, that something that we may be living apart if we're in a couple or a partner situation, or if we have a family member we're helping who's a solo ager. So we really do want to collaborate with professionals such as Ingleside to help make a seamless transition. As much as we can know in terms of details about the story of that person is very helpful to us, the type of work they did, if they worked outside the home, what were some of their interests, their joys. And we actually spend a lot of time on where people are from. Maybe they live in Washington now because of work, but maybe they came from Yonkers or Buffalo um, or Miami. And we spend time on that because as time goes on, there are many aspects of what they are able to remember that go way back to that time. And it helps us to build programs, familiarity, helps them to feel welcome as they come in. So we use a lot of details in the story to create a specific narrative that works for each individual family. That's very important. No two stories are alike. And we also want to have the family members know that we're going to be sharing those stories with our care teams. And we want to make sure that we're always on the same page, that we're collaborating. Um, and so those stories are really important. We begin to document as early as when the tours begin. Uh, we do validate the emotions we experience in our individual meetings with our families. We know that uh, sometimes we have a challenging time with understanding that we're not going to be living with our family member and they're going to be here in memory support. But I think that we are able to, in validating those emotions, help our family members to know that we are confident that they'll be able to take this next step and their family member will be happy, if not in the early stages of the first couple of weeks, as time goes on, because we're really going to help them in this intentional community, help them with new friends, and help them to know that they're in a safe and happy place. Next slide, please. So one of the things we spend time on is an orientation for the primary care partners. And we are again revisiting the story, but looking at what are you actually doing when you move from home, whether it's a home or an apartment, where your primary place of residence has been, and moving in. We provide you with a list of recommended things to bring. We work out the day of logistics. We work out planning visits. For example, we think it's really important when you are moving a person into residential care that you don't go away right away. You can imagine that for the person who's living away from home, has not done that perhaps in many, many years, except for maybe when they went away to college or went away for a vacation. They're coming into a new place and they'd like to see you, and we really encourage that. We really want frequent visits from our family members, for friends that they may have visited with or had dinners with. So we really want people to come in and help them to understand it's a collaborative effort. We may not say it's a collaborative effort, but our actions are showing the person that they're not just being dropped off. In the assisted living level of care, we offer help with activities of daily living, help with showering if that's what they need, help with dressing, helping them with choice making, helping them with with bathroom logistics, helping with medications management. That's what it means to come into an assisted living level of care. That not all of those things, but maybe some of those things need support. We're very focused on a dementia-specific approach to care, meaning that we understand that the primary symptom is going to be memory loss. However, with neurocognitive disease, we know that there are other issues. There are a constellation of diminishments. Eyesight might not be the same. Taste might not be the same. Hearing may not be the same. So we really get to know that person individually. We have a wonderful interdisciplinary team that wraps themselves around each person who's admitted into the program. We have a chaplain, social worker, life enrichment team members, in addition to our levels of nursing, and myself, of course, as the program director. So we have a whole team that comes together to get to know your loved one. And it's a wonderful experience once they become familiar with the faces and they hear their name and they get to see that person every day, throughout the day. They begin to relax and feel comfortable. We have wonderful therapeutic programs and recreational programs. Amy addressed those. I'm not going to go too much into those, but we do design the day so that we are narrating the day for those living in residential care. We accompany them to programs. The design of our particular unit is such that when folks leave their apartment, which is its own design, but when they come out of their apartment, they're able to see where they need to be. So that if they need to see that, they can see the dining room. So if it's a mealtime, they know where they're going. If it's a program space where they spend the majority of their time during the day, when they leave their apartment, they can see the program space. So we've really spent time not only in the design of the physical space, but in the design of the day. In the mornings, we're going to have our exercise. We're going to have our news you can use. We are going to have our walking clubs. Our master programs in the morning will focus on a topic of their interest that's been planned a month in advance. We have wonderful calendars that help our residents to stay on track in their families, but we also don't expect that they're going to refer to the calendar. So we narrate the day throughout the day for them and guide them through each part of the day. We make a big deal over our meals, for example. So when exercise ends at 11:45, we may get our menus and recite the menu and let them know what the chef has prepared today. And then we walk them into the dining room, which is just a few steps away, but it's all a part of them getting to know us and helping them to feel safe. We have many volunteers that visit our community from our independent living community. Most of our residents who live here are familiar with maybe 10 or 15 volunteers that come through on a regular basis and who know their names as well. So there are many opportunities for our independent living folks to come and help us with music programs. They design programs for our folks as well. They bring in authors from our community to do author talks, poetry readings, different types of games. We may have a senior fitness that's just designed for memory support, a senior fitness day. And so our independent living residents were bringing all sorts of games, from cornhole to basketball to hula hoops, whatever it may be. So they're very much a part of our community. They help us with our year-round indoor gardening, and that's been a lot of fun for our folks. So we utilize the entire campus. We take our residents from memory support to concerts to talks on campus. And that's a big part of them feeling that they're in their apartments in Building 1 in the health center, but they're also a part of a larger community called Ingleside at Rock Creek in our case, or King Farm or Westminster. They participate throughout the campuses. It is important to give our residents space and autonomy in getting settled into their new home. As part of getting to know them, we learn how they wish to communicate. We're paying attention to the words they may use if retrieval of words is more difficult. We are patient. We may help them by filling in the word if it's appropriate. We may validate what they're saying. We're much like detectives in our work. We do a lot of forensic activity in looking for the clues that tell us how this person moves in the world. What is it that makes them happy? How can we validate what they're saying and move them into the direction that they're going? The goal should be to make the meaningful connection with them and to help them make connections with their folks at their dining tables or people they live with next door. So we make an intentional effort to sit our newest residents with people who are much like themselves, who they may have the same abilities in word retrieval, conversation levels, interests, and we'll sit with them. I often, when our newest residents come in, I will join that table for dinner and help to facilitate the conversation. So I may bring topics that I know all of them will be interested in. And I spend time over, probably 4 or 5 dinners until I know that they're comfortable on their own. So we really believe that in social settings, although they have a dementia diagnosis, they have the ability to rise to social occasions. We've seen this over and over, and we validate that, and we know that they're going to make a seamless transition to their new community in time. Okay, so I'm going to now turn it over to Kirsten, who meets our families at the front end to help explore when a residential memory community may be the right option.
Thank
Kirsten?
you so much, Mariana. And we actually had a question in the chat about when to make this move. And so I think hopefully this slide should be informative, and then certainly we can discuss that more with our memory program directors in our Q&A. But we have identified as a team at each of our campuses, kind of as we've supported many, many families, that there tend to be these 3 areas where we see the most change, and when it aligns that there's cognitive change, more support needed with activities of daily living, and there are some safety or isolation concerns, that those tend to be this trifecta of, you know what, we should begin more seriously thinking about a transition to a residential care neighborhood. So any one of these things could certainly on their own be a reason to look at a memory care or a memory support neighborhood. It is very family or situation specific. In situations where there's not a married couple or there's not a primary care partner that lives in the home setting, maybe there's adult children that are supporting their parent, there may not be really that much change with activities of daily living. Their parent may still be, eating, at least if the food is already prepared, they're able to eat consistently, or they're still showering safely, or maybe they've never been dependent on that many medications, and so it's not a big deal if they miss, maybe taking their vitamin D or something like that. And so, you may not have need in all 3 of these categories, but if there's nobody living with the individual with cognitive change, that in and of itself may be a reason, right? You get that diagnosis of Alzheimer's or mild cognitive impairment, and it begins that discussion of, you know what, none of us kids are nearby. Should we be looking at a residential neighborhood? Again, when we talk about activities of daily living, you may say, you know what, there's no cognitive change present. We're just talking about needing help with medications or meals or laundry services. Well, that would just be a traditional assisted living. But if you've got that cognitive change diagnosis, and now we're seeing some changes with ability to just functionally live independently, right? And we need support with that shower, or we're not eating meals consistently, or we've messed up the medication regimen, and actually it's been deleterious. We've had to go to the hospital. So once we're seeing multiple of these categories together, we do really support these families in a transition. And then the one that this third bullet point here that really many people would say is just a deciding point in and of itself is when there are safety concerns. And that can look like a lot of different things. One of the ones that we've unfortunately heard many times is that their partner or parent, whoever it is, has exited the home unsafely. So maybe in the middle of the night, they are wandering, not clear on where they were trying to go or what they were trying to do. Maybe police have been involved. And so that is certainly this scary kind of, oh my gosh, yes, we need to make a decision. But there's some stuff upstream of that as well. One of the things we look at is isolation. And so someone who used to play bridge with others or have a few friends over or had a really core group of ladies in their building, but sadly some of them have passed or there's just changes. And so we may hear, well, before COVID, mom did this, this, and that. And now we've realized after COVID, oh, there's not, just that the world changed, mom changed, and there's cognitive change. And now all those things that were so good, the meals with friends or the playing bridge or maybe even going to the tennis club, those things haven't picked back up. And so when we see one of these things or even any combination thereof of a diagnosis of cognitive change, support needed with activities of daily living, or any safety or isolation concerns, we really start to have increased conversations with families about this being the right time to make that transition. So we're coming to the end of our presentation. And what I want to just kind of reiterate, we've heard a lot of great information from our 3 memory program directors today. What I would say, and I know we have people on our webinars who join us from all over, not just in the DMV region, ask these questions. If let's say that you are living in Sacramento and you are touring communities, we're so grateful that Ingleside can be of support to you, that you're able to join us today virtually for this program. Ask the communities that you're touring some of these questions. What does their orientation program look like? What does their staff training look like? And just making sure that you're gleaning from today to you wherever you reside as you look at a residential program. At the Ingleside properties, I think you heard Mariana and others hit on our just beautiful space that is new at both King Farm and Rock Creek within the last 5 years and being renovated for Amy at Westminster at Lake Ridge. So these intentional spaces that really do support that household design. You're looking at communities here at Ingleside that have service plans that are robust with multiple different dimensions of wellness. We heard a lot about our care teams and their dementia-specific training. All 3 of the Ingleside properties are nonprofit. And so this means a lot of things. And we always talk about our kind of the financial side of things, but it also just means that you're in a community where the culture is one of giving. And so you heard all 3 of our memory program directors touch on integration with the independent living community, having volunteers from independent living, but that well-integrated community, in my experience, is most prevalent when it's a nonprofit community. We do have skilled nursing. So if you are someone who's looking at those finances or you're clinically focused and you're saying, I want to make sure that whether it's financially or medically, that we have the entire continuum, then absolutely looking at life plan communities where you have that facility on campus. And then I think you heard talking about the living and just so much on campus, whether it's the fitness center, spa. And so when and community, you do have access to so much more than just that one memory residential neighborhood that may be 30 apartments or whatever it is. So we happen to feature an all-inclusive bundled rate. If that's something that is of interest and you're saying, you know what, I do reside in the DMV, I do want to come over and tour Ingleside or learn more about what you're doing, then I've shared my contact information and you're welcome to reach out to me. So let's open it up for questions. I know we had at least one question about the when of moving, so I don't know if any of the memory program directors want to expand.
Would just add that also making sure that the caregiver is taken into consideration. Totally agree with everything Kirsten said. Safety changes in ADF are often sort of the things that get our attention, but just also recognizing as a caregiver your own ability and capacity to care for somebody, because as you know, and we don't want something to happen to you, and then really not have a plan. So really, taking your own physical and emotional well-being into consideration too.
I see that our office coordinator has been able to drop in the chat the link for some upcoming in-person events. So it's just wonderful that we can do a hybrid of today being together virtually, and then tomorrow, if you're in the DC area, to get together in person. Next week, there's an opportunity to be together in person in Rockville at Maureen's community. So do take a moment to check out those upcoming events that Samantha has put in the chat. And we thank you for joining us today. We did record our session today. So if you have someone in your life that you wanted to share this with, or maybe there's a sibling or a friend or a neighbor that couldn't join, just reach out to us and we'll make sure that you get the recording from today's event. Thank you to